Why do hard times break certain people and refine other people? And why do trials and difficulties make some of the most wonderful, humble people and also some of the worst people? I was recently having this conversation about, trials or challenges, difficulties, hardships, whatever you want to call them, with an important person in my life. And we were talking about, what's the difference? And so I got super curious about this. And for me, it kept coming back down to a concept called alchemy. The process of alchemy is taking materials and purifying or maturing or perfecting them. And many philosophers and psychiatrists and psychologists take that process, this alchemical process, and use it as a symbol for becoming. And just as the base materials in alchemy experience intense heat and pressure during the alchemical process, during this process of becoming, so do we as humans experience intense stress and heat and pressure. And I mean heat in the metaphorical sense, but also in the most true sense possible. Because the concept of heat and of fire is used in so many spiritual traditions, including Christianity. There's the cleansing power of fire, the spirit of fire. In Native American traditions, there's almost always a fire involved. They have the sweat lodges where heat is involved. And in Hinduism, there's the tapas, which is the heat of spiritual transformation. So this idea of heat and of fire is broadly used and broadly found among many spiritual traditions and religions. And so I guess the real question is, why does this transformation happen to some people under the heat and stress of hardship? And why does it completely wreck some people when they get under this intense heat and pressure of hardship? Okay, so let's get down to basics here. So in alchemy, prima materia, which is the prime material, that is the base material that everything in the universe is made out of. Everything that is matter comes from this prime matter, this prima materia. And this prime matter is a representation of chaos. And so similarly, if we're applying the process of alchemy to our lives under immense hardship and pressure and stress and the trials we go through, I think we can also be boiled down to this base material that feels like chaos because the way that life was supposed to be has fallen apart. That's what a hardship, that's what a trial feels like. And none of us like chaos. And so we start to add in order. We start to add in things that make us feel more in control. Carl Jung called this process the divine marriage, the union of opposites, so the union of chaos and order. This is the key part, in my opinion, from what I understand. This is the key part to how we can see a well-trained alchemist will make a material that is refined and strong and resilient, and an untrained, unprepared alchemist will create a material that will crumble under pressure. The trained alchemist understands that the quality of the material that you add to this prima materia, to this prime material, is what matters. The quality of the order, the quality of psychological order that you're putting into your chaos is what will make or break the situation. And so there are many forms of order that we can add to the chaos of life to make sense of it. But one of the most powerful forms, a form of order that we use almost always and usually unconsciously, is our personal narrative, the story that we tell ourselves about life. And I've talked about this before many times, especially quoting the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. The personal narrative, the story that we tell ourselves, has incredible power. And once we understand that, what we really need to do is to work on the author, to work on ourselves, to do the hard work and turn inward and work on ourselves. And we develop the author, we develop ourselves by working on our emotional intelligence, by working on our emotional regulation, our mental health, and by leveraging and balancing intuition and rational thought, limiting our biases, exploring all these traditions and religions and spiritual practices, and bringing all of the good into ourselves so that we can use that order. We can use that truth as we develop the story that we tell ourselves. Because I think that's the ultimate purpose here, is to tell a story to ourselves that is more true to reality. And so, all of that to say, what is the difference between the person that is refined by hardship and the person that crumbles under pressure? From what I understand, it is the quality of the development spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally of that person. If you come to a hardship and you have not done the work on yourself, you will not have the capacity and the tools necessary to turn that chaotic prime material that is what's left after hardship into something that will continue to survive and thrive. And so next time you're going through hell and you realize that you haven't turned that hardship into something resilient, don't be so hard on yourself. Don't let that failure come down too hard on you. Just turn around and start doing the work on yourself so that next time you're prepared. So that next time you're not going to fall apart under pressure. You will have the emotional and mental and spiritual tools ready to take that chaos and add pure order and pure truth into the chaos to make something more resilient. And that brings me to one incredibly important thing that we can do, and that would be to practice this practice of alchemy outside of hardship. Because once we're in the moment, it's incredibly difficult to work on ourselves during hardship. But if we can do that outside of hardship, we can be much more prepared to have what we need during hardship to refine ourselves and to walk away a better person. But doing this process of alchemy outside of hardship is hard because it requires a sense of dedication to rise above any sort of self-deception, because we want to think that we are doing the best. We want to think that we have no biases. We want to think that we are not influenced by our past experiences. But in reality, we are littered with biases and influences, both conscious and unconscious. But one way that we can strip back those biases and do this hard work of alchemy outside of hardship is to have rituals. Spiritual rituals like meditation or prayer, but it also can be physical rituals like running or walking or any other number of rituals that you can think of. Something that can strip back our biases, that we can almost artificially create that heat that is required to bring us down to that chaotic material. If we can artificially do that through ritual, that's where we're going to be able to practice this alchemy outside of hardship. Okay, so at this point up on the mountain, it was really, really cold, and I was getting very, very frustrated because my equipment, my camera and microphone and everything was kind of struggling, probably partially because of how cold it was and how cold my fingers were. I was just struggling, and so I got super frustrated and rushed through the last little bit of the video, and I don't think I did it justice. So I wanted to re-record really quick and restate what I was trying to say. So when Nietzsche and all these other people say that greatness comes from hardship, we need to understand that there is a caveat, and that caveat is our personal development. And the personal development comes when we see ourselves through an unbiased filter as much as possible, and we can see the problems, the things that we need to work on. We work on them. We work on our authorship of our personal narrative so that we can tell ourselves a story. We can bring the order back into chaos in a more pure way. And then we will maybe understand what Marcus Aurelius was saying when he said that the obstacle is the way. I hope that made sense. I hope that was interesting. I felt like I was really swimming in the deep end on this one. I'm always outside of my comfort zone when I make these videos because I'm not an expert, but this one was really hard to explain my feelings and thoughts on this. So if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. If you thought this was interesting, stick around and I'll catch you in the next video.